Alright guys, welcome to Formula 1 news. Red Bull Racing seem to be very close to, if not already, in a state of absolutely falling apart 3 months to the day after Adrian Newey announced his departure from Red Bull at the end of the season. The same is now true for another veteran of their team, their sporting director, Jonathan Wheatley, who had been rumoured to be considering exit options for some time in the wake of all the drama earlier this season, has pulled the trigger. Wheatley is gone. He's going to Audi as their new team boss. Is this indicative of an absolute collapse of this Red Bull organisation over the past few months? And it does not seem to be arresting anytime soon. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. First of all, as Thomas Maher says, big news breaking. That big news is not Logan Sargent going to IndyCar. That is the big rumour of the day, that the new Prema IndyCar team was looking at Formula 2 drivers, Formula 1 drivers as potential options for their team. And I think even Mick Schumacher was at least linked to that possibility. Now it looks like, no, it's Logan Sargent, of course, because his time in F1 is coming to an end after this season. Carlos Sainz coming into Williams instead. Sargent's not getting another F1 seat, so IndyCar seems to make a lot of sense, and those negotiations are underway. That's probably going to happen. Makes a lot of sense. Wish the best, of course, for Sargent after this season. But on the 1st of February, Hamilton went to Ferrari. On the 1st of May, Newey announced the departure from Red Bull, and really, in that period, from Lewis to Ferrari into the Newey departure, there was all sorts of chaos at Red Bull, right? There was the Horner Gate stuff. Everything was happening behind the scenes. In this 3-month period after Newey announces his departure, Red Bull have just fallen off straight up. Like, even strategically, to be fair, I will say, strategically, operationally, I think Red Bull are as good as they were at the start of the season and last year, but whenever your car isn't so good anymore, it makes your strategy more challenging and therefore more prone to mistakes. But over those last 3 months, Red Bull have gone from winning everything to not winning anything really over the last few rounds. Sure, they're still getting some pole positions, but Max is not able to win as dominantly as he was at the start of the season, and frankly for the last 2 years as well. The reasons behind that are maybe many among them, and we talked about them over the last few days. 1st of August though, what's going to happen today? You know, 3 months on from February we got to May, 3 months on from May we got to August, and we're going to get the answer soon enough for you guys. Quickly from Lando Norris, they interviewed him again just like they did after his win at Miami. He talked about how he's just got to be better off the starts, right? There was a crazy stat I saw yesterday, actually. Norris is the only driver on the grid to have not gained a single place on the first lap all season. This includes sprint races as well. There have been 17 races, 14 races, including 3 sprint races, pretty sure. Lando has not gained a single place on any of those opening laps. Every other driver on the grid has at least done that. Not a good sign for Lando, but he does say on Carlos Sainz, who of course, good friends, now he's going to Williams, and he basically says, yeah, Red Bull should have got him instead of sticking with Sergio Perez, and the Perez decision to keep him was highly controversial. We talked about it yesterday. Is that going to be in the best interest? Does that please Max Verstappen and his camp? Not necessarily. Would bringing in Sainz have done that? No, let's be real. But definitely the Red Bull saga is pretty wild right now. Another big update though on the day, McLaren confirming a multi-year extension with Andrea Stella, their team principal. Definitely he has overseen the redemption of McLaren. They have had the best package overall for the last several rounds, on average of course. Basically every weekend it's difficult to say which car's going to be the fastest. Sometimes it's been the Red Bull, it seems. Mostly it's probably been the McLaren, sometimes the Mercedes, and then of course the Ferrari has not been the quickest since really Monaco, but nonetheless McLaren have done a great job turning their season around. They've just got to be more ruthless in their execution, a more winning outfit. Maybe that takes time. I think their drivers, especially Norris, need to execute better as well, but it's not like these are Stella's problems. Well, they are his problems, but it's not like he's causing them. In fact, he's done precisely the opposite. So he is going to extend as his contract over there. But let's talk about Red Bull. They do have an upgrade coming, but the upgrade is not exactly going to arrive immediately. It's not like they're going to turn up to Zandvoort with a major package which is going to turn it around. They brought that major package to Hungary. Didn't really work, right? They weren't so happy with it. Certainly Verstappen wasn't. Thought the car was understeering like a boat. So this development package is going to be spread out between Baku, Singapore, and then the Austin Grand Prix as well. So that is the next development package for Red Bull, but that will be with Jonathan Wheatley, but with the confirmation that he's going to be out at the end of the season. So this was confirmed today after Adrian Newey, another big name and veteran. So Newey was around on Red Bull since 2006. Same with Wheatley. He's been their sporting director and has been a crucial member of their pit wall now for several years, almost bordering on a couple of decades. He's also worked with so many teams and drivers over the year. He's gone. he's leaving for Audi to become their team boss. Now, I will say, one of the most fascinating things about this was the fact that Wheatley's joining of Audi was confirmed far before Audi even said anything about it or had this prepared. So it kind of sounds like, having found out about this, Red Bull effectively just leaked it. I don't know what you guys think about this, because in Red Bull's announcement, they confirmed where he was going before the next organisation confirmed him coming in, which is just generally not considered to be best practice. I don't really care. I think it's kind of dramatic and entertaining, and I'm intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. But usually, you wouldn't say, oh, our guy's leaving to go here, before they've actually said that. So it sounded like, I don't know if it was a little bit petty from Red Bull, but that's been one of the interpretations. Anyway, Wheatley's been around Formula 1 for 34 years, worked with Benetton, Renault, Red Bull, of course, a pretty reasonable amount of race wins, Constructors' Championships, pole positions, podiums, under his tenure at many of these teams over the last several years. But yes, confirmation that Wheatley has gone. Now, earlier this year, when the Horner stuff was going on, there were rumours that Wheatley was not on the chopping block, but was considering his future in the team. As soon as rumours started to begin about Newey, whether he would leave, there was talk about Wheatley, there was talk about some of the other senior figures in the team. Now, one interpretation here is that Jonathan Wheatley was being billed in some ways as the next team principal of the team. If Horner had have gone after Hornergate, Textgate, whatever you want to say, earlier this season, Wheatley would have been the man to step in as the new team principal. It became increasingly clear over the last few months that isn't happening anymore, right? Like, Horner's not going anywhere. So maybe Wheatley just decided, all right, I've bowed my time in this team, Horner's not going to leave, so it's about time that I depart and seek next adventures, because if I want to become a team principal elsewhere, then it's not going to happen at Red Bull, so he's got to go somewhere else. In the same way as kind of what happened with James Vowles, right, who departed Mercedes to join Williams as their team principal, and look, that seemed relatively cordial. It's not like there was crazy drama between Toto and Vowles, to our understanding, and he decided what was best for his future was to go to Williams. But nonetheless, that was still a loss to Mercedes. Their loss of their head of strategy, as he was at the time, definitely seemed over the last couple of seasons to hurt their overall performance from Mercedes in that category, and maybe, well, there will be negative repercussions for Jonathan Wheatley leaving the team, as he's been around there so long. But Red Bull then confirm it, right? He heads to a new challenge in the role of team principal with the Audi F1 project, which was not even confirmed by Audi for another few hours. They seem to be caught off guard by this. Everyone at the team wishes Jonathan the best. We're announcing a new team structure. Kind of interesting they capitalized it, didn't it? But whatever. They were going to announce a new team structure over the coming weeks. And then F1, they confirm it themselves. They're like, yeah, of course Wheatley's going to Audi. Like, you guys weren't aware, Mr. Mattia Binotto and the boys over at Audi? What's going on there? So there are a couple of ways to read it, right? Either this is mere coincidence that, well, Wheatley was considering leaving anyway, wants to take the next step in his career, and it just so happens now's the time. But realistically, there are multiple reasons that make me think it's not just coincidence, right? Like, the team has been declining over the last few months. The Horner drama, the internal battles and, civil war, whatever, between the Marco camp, the Horner camp, the Thai owners, the Austrian owners, Jos Verstappen, right, getting into the mix. Max, of course, in the picture as well, keeping Sergio Perez controversially. Like, there's just been so much drama behind the scenes of Red Bull that it can't just be coincidence that now is the time that he decides to depart. Then again, obviously it makes sense. Audi need a new team principal. They've just brought on Mattia Binotto. So you can look at it in that way, and there is a reasonable take that says, well, this is merely a function of Formula 1, and this is probably going to happen anyway. But no, let's be real, right? Let's look at the events of the last few months and say whether there does seem to be a bit of a trend here. And even Zach Brown mentioned a couple of months ago now that he'd heard that loads of CVs were floating around the paddock, mainly from Red Bull. So it's another major scalp, and this is what Jos Verstappen said several months ago. Even, let me just find real quick the Jos Verstappen comment. This is what he said back in March when all the drama was happening. There is tension here while he remains in position. There is danger of the team being torn apart. It cannot go on the way that it is. It will explode. He is playing the victim when he is the one causing the problems. So drama, as always, quick rewind really back to what was happening at the start of March. But Jos Verstappen has now doubled down on this over the last few months, and it is interesting to hear Verstappen's perspective, Jos's perspective, that the team will explode if Horner stays. Comparing where the team was then compared to where the team is today, it doesn't feel like he was too far off the mark, to be perfectly honest. This is what Horner says: Red Bull Racing have tremendous strength and depth, and this provides opportunity to elevate others within the team. We will announce a new team structure in the coming weeks. So Horner, is he concerned about the current situation? The concern that I would have is what Verstappen, as in Max, thinks about this whole thing, because I think Sundaram says this quite well, really. Key figures departing, driver dilemmas, controversies, as always, and then internal politics, among more, right? I mean, frankly, also declining individual team performance. So what does Max think, right? Like, if he gets the call from Toto, and people are obviously joking about this, I see this picture go around every, few days, I think, at this point, but nonetheless, it's still relevant. What if Toto's on the phone to Max saying, hey, look, maybe now's the time, right? You got another departure there from Red Bull, there's more drama going on behind the scenes, and even you get this from some of the Red Bull official accounts. What has happened to this team? Because it didn't seem long ago that we were praising Red Bull for understandable reasons on being an unbelievably efficient outfit from top to bottom, right? Like, in terms of the car, they're the best car, they're seemingly the best technical team, they have the best, well, they still have the best pit stops, they generally speaking have the best strategy, but operationally, the team cohesion and structure, it seems to be like, wow, how is another team even possibly trying to beat Red Bull? Because you've got to get past Max, you've got to get past the absolutely dominant machinery that Newey is making them, and you've got to get past an impeccably orchestrated operations and strategic department, largely led by Jonathan Wheatley, of course. But all of a sudden, in the last 3 months, certainly 6 months, things have dramatically fallen apart. The on-track stuff is very interesting, and of course, we talked about the rumours that have been going around in the paddock that there were certain parts on that RB20 that the FIA basically requested Red Bull take off because they may not have been conforming. There were rumours on that. We talked about it a while ago. That would at least be one explanation for why their car is no longer anywhere near as dominant as it was in China and before then. But even outside of the car stuff, it's been crazy what's happened behind the scenes. I think, to be honest, it all stems with the death of Dietrich Mateschitz. As soon as that happened, there was going to be, and there was, a power struggle behind the scenes, multiple factions fighting for control of the entire enterprise, and it seems like the Thai owners, and therefore they back Christian Horner, they've won that battle, and on the other side, you've got Helmut Marko, and you've got the Verstappen camp in some respects, you've got the Austrian camp, and then you've got fallout, right, as a result. It seems like Newey was not happy with the way things were going. He decided to get out of there. It seems like Wheatley was not so happy with the way things were going. He's decided to get out of there. Who knows how many also may follow afterwards. But these are massive departures in the space of just a couple of months, and who knows if there isn't more to come, right? So, we talked about the efficiency, even as Mehmet says in reply, as dominance and efficiency of the team. The WhatsApp messages have brought it all crumbling down. And sometimes you see this whole, too big to fail or whatever situation where the Red Bull team looked so in command, but it doesn't take much for, a bit of brain drain to creep in, bit of questions about the team, and that overall chemistry and structure under Christian Horner does not seem to be anywhere near as stable as it appeared several months ago. And maybe on some level, winning was propping up the team, and as soon as they no longer win, all of a sudden you're seeing some of the repercussions. As I say though, one of the funny things was that Audi were like, hang on a second, Red Bull, what do you mean he's joining us? Obviously he is, and they confirmed it, but they were apparently completely blindsided by this announcement, or by this statement. Maybe it was due to be announced today anyway, but the fact that Audi weren't even ready for this. So yeah, when asked by AMUS, Audi said they didn't even wish to comment on it at this time. So they clearly weren't ready for Red Bull to say, oh yeah, he's going to Audi. Nice one, guys. They did eventually, however, upload an actual article here on the Audi Media Center or whatever, confirming the appointment. And so this is the Audi project, and they do a bit of a statement basically talking about this duo of Mattia Binotto and Jonathan Wheatley. So just to kind of share a quick quote from that, pretty much Binotto will do the operative management role and Wheatley will be operational management of race events. And so basically Binotto's going to work on the car stuff and the PU. Wheatley is going to manage the race events and racing performance. So yeah, it's honestly pretty impressive from Audi, right? These scalps are a pretty big deal. Audi don't fail in motorsports. That is the general consensus of whatever they've attempted to achieve over the last several decades. They've basically won it all. And will F1 be the same? I don't know. Clearly Carlos Sainz didn't think so, otherwise he could have taken that opportunity, and maybe the opportunity will still be there down down the line if he wants to join in 2027 or whatever the case might be. But Mattia Binotto joined the other day. They got rid of Andreas Steidl. There was clearly some drama behind the scenes at Aldi. Binotto then is the COO and CTO. So he's not precisely technical director, but he's the chief technical officer and chief operating officer. So that's a pretty good role for Binotto. I think that suits him relatively well. And he is going to work effectively alongside Jonathan Wheatley as their team principal and management spokesperson. So it's not going to be like, oh, we've got the COO, the CTO, and the team principal. Well, they are those technical roles, but it's more so like these are the two guys, Binotto and Wheatley, that will be leading up the project over the next couple of years. So that's then what Audi go on to say. You know, the CEO comes out and gives his perspective on Jonathan joining as man with many championship titles in his Formula One career, extensive paddock experience, a very valuable addition to our team, and I agree with that one, and therefore I guess you also have to agree with the idea that it's a big loss for Red Bull at the same time. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below, especially really what Verstappen is going to make of this whole situation, because the Mercedes option, given that they haven't confirmed anything yet, right? We know that Andrea Antonelli is expected to get Hamilton's seat, but of course it's always possible that Verstappen gets it. Could you also imagine, by the way, like if Verstappen was to join, what that would mean for Bono, like Peter Bonington, Hamilton's race engineer, because Bono's not going to Ferrari, that's confirmed. I think it's going to be basically Sainz's and Vettel's former race engineer who's going to take care of Hamilton. So Bono's not going there. So like, would GP come with Max? Probably that's how it would go, to be honest, right? I don't know if Bono would do the kind of race engineering for Verstappen. That might feel a bit weird, I don't know. And I think that if Toto was to say, you know, hey Max, you want to come along? What can we do to make it happen? They'd want to bring GP as well. But of course, Hamilton would like to bring Bono to Ferrari, but contracts and gardening leave and clauses, and it's not going to happen, right? So I don't know if Max would actually be able to bring GP if he was to go to Mercedes, but whatever, it's a possibility. This was kind of wild, actually. So there's not that many races, at least in recent history, that have had 5 different leaders at any point. Spa 2024 was one of them, and Verstappen never led the race. Leclerc was in the lead for some time, Sainz was in the lead for some time, Hamilton was in the lead for some time, Russell of course was in the lead for some time, as briefly was Piastri, but Verstappen was none of those drivers, and every race that Verstappen has been in where there's been 5 race leaders, he's at least been one of those race leaders, which kind of makes sense, but it's still kind of interesting, right? That in Austria 2016, even Turkey 2020, among many others, Verstappen has always led a race when there's been 5 race leaders, but in Spa there were 5 race leaders and Verstappen was none of them, which is kind of interesting. I don't know, a bit of funny trivia, I suppose, but does go to show maybe something in terms of how things have fallen off for him over the course of the season, and his averaging finishing position is only 2.4, still very good, but it's not what it was at the start of the season, obviously. Sainz actually, kind of impressively, has the second highest average finishing position. Now, of course, finishing position is a bit of bias, because if you DNF, because of whatever reason, you spin out, you crash or something, like your engine blows up, then it doesn't count. But still, thought this is a pretty good indication of how race performance has been this season. But very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.